Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet, and today I'd just like to talk you through an abstract painting process that I did when I was trying to think about how the winter season upcoming might influence the palettes that I'm using in my journal. I decided that I was going to mask off an area in a notebook I've been using, not a high quality paper. I'm trying to use less intimidating art supplies these days because I do find that if I don't do that, I think everything is too pretty and that I'll only ruin it if I try to use it. So I'm using a very cheap notebook and I'm getting straight down with the masking tape. When it came to the palette, I decided I was going to use all cool colours. So things like blues, a very dark green, so dark you might actually think it was black. And it's only when you add in a little bit of white that you realise, no, that really is green. And, that actually takes the white to show you that. And this is some of the green going down now. You can perhaps just about see that it does have green tones to it. But when I add some white into it, you'll see that it is, actually green. And some blues, some dark blues, which I then made lighter with some white paint. And what I decided to do with this is that I wasn't going to darken any colours. I was just going to use the primary colour, whatever that may be, blue or green, and then I would lighten it with the white. So I wouldn't add black or brown to try and darken it. I would just use the darkest value I had and then lighten it from there. I did try and play quite loose with this abstract. I was obviously thinking about mirroring the two sides. So you can see there that I've got some kind of thick lines and then I've got some thinner lines that kind of jut along the page. And then I did some kind of almost cleaning off of the brush in order to be a bit loose with the marks. But ultimately, I did try and just relax into it and give myself the opportunity to enjoy and be intuitive, which is a big part of my process these days when it comes to abstract painting. There are some other videos on my channel if you'd like to hear more about that. Once I'd got some more blue in the mix, I did also think about other colours that I could use to accent what I'd already done. And I decided that I would add in some plain black and some plain white, and that I would also use some pink as a kind of accent colour. So most of the colours are cool, but I did want something to kind of contrast and essentially pop next to those blues. And I thought pink would be an interesting choice. Now, the lighting has changed in the video because the days are so short in the UK at the moment. It is winter time here. I've only got a very fixed amount of daylight. And by the time your first layer has dried, it is getting sort of dark outside. So I did decide to continue filming and turn the light on, but it is going to affect the colours that you're seeing in the video a little bit. So if it doesn't quite look how you'd expect, that is why. So here's me going in with some of the other colours besides the blues and the green. I'm going in with the white now and just filling in some gaps. Again, I'm trying not to overthink this. I'm trying just to create blocks of colour where it pleases me, where it feels right to me. I know a lot of people ask about abstract, like how do you do it? How do you get into it? I mean, here I'm just splattering paint around because that's what feels right to me. I had created quite blocky colours in the background and I wanted something to contrast with that. I also wanted something that I couldn't control. And one of the best things about spattering paint is you have literally no control over where it lands. It may land somewhere that you like, it may not. And I think, Jackson Pollock, who did a lot of this kind of paint spattering, as we know, a very renowned artist, and one of the most incredible things about his work is how much he just let go of that control aspect and the depth that all that spattering creates. And, I've seen his work hung in MoMA in New York. And before I went there, the only place I'd seen a Jackson Pollock was on a postcard. I can tell you that it does not compare. Seeing the real thing is a completely different experience. And in fact, it was so moving when I saw it that I cried the first time I saw a Jackson Pollock hung. So there is something to be said for allowing that element of kind of freedom, a kind of lack of control into your work. I can see why Pollock thought it was a good idea to bring that element into his work, and it kind of represents so much, doesn't it? Like the randomness of life, the things that we don't have control over. That's all represented in your work when you do something like that, when you use a technique where you can't really control what happens to the paint. Maybe I'm slightly overthinking this, but what can I say? I think art can go as deep as you like when it comes to the interpretation of it. And in actually spattering paint around myself, it did make me think more about it at a deeper level. You know, why do artists do this? What's satisfying about it? What's poignant about it? And there are some things about it that really speak to our experience of the world we live in and the lives that we lead. I decided that I did want to do a little bit of collage because I'm addicted to collage. And I had this piece of tissue paper that has sort of circles on it. And I just decided I was going to cut just a few little circles out. And I was trying to try really hard not to overthink where those circles went. Although I did do a little bit of playing around before I decided on the final placings. And I just glued that down with some Mod Podge. I actually think it's called Mod Podge, not Mod Podge. I think I always say it wrong. However it's pronounced, I think you all know what I'm talking about. And so I decided to just get that down with some Mod Podge. Let's try and say it correctly. And just put those things in place. I prefer that to gel matte medium. I've tried using gel matte medium with tissue paper, and I don't really like the finish on it. So Mod Podge is where it's at for me. It's a much cleaner finish, I think, when I use Mod Podge. So putting that down, and I was pleasantly surprised when it all dries. You'll see, you know, how this all looks once the Mod Podge is dried. It does actually look like it's part of the piece, and I think that's what I get from Mod Podge that I didn't feel I was getting from gel matte medium. That to me, somehow the Mod Podge made the collage piece seem like it was part of the original composition. And that's actually what I want. I don't really want these to look like collaged pieces. I would like them to look more like they belong in that canvas, like they were part of the original composition. So that's why I'm doing that. And this, I have to say, is one of my better abstract pieces. And that's just the way it's worked out. Sometimes I film things. I mean, I filmed a video a little while back where I talked about how to improve a piece that had gone wrong, because I do have pieces that, gone wrong is the wrong word, but that don't turn out how I hoped or expected. And there are ways of going back to an abstract piece and improving them, and I'll link to that video below to show you what I did if you missed that. But I was pleasantly surprised by how these pieces turned out, the texture of them, and how well the palette went. This is essentially using tone on tone, all the blues and a little bit of green in there, but mostly blues. And tone on tone is a really great way of kind of knowing in your heart that you can't really go wrong. If you've just got all different shades of blue or all different shades of red or whatever shade it might be, whatever colour it might be, often that will just work and you don't have to overthink it, except perhaps to think of an accent colour like I did with the pink, which I have to say is looking kind of red on this video, but it was pink, and I think that's the lighting. So it's a very straightforward way of delving into abstract art. And this was just really me playing with colour, playing with composition, seeing where things felt right. So here's a close-up in daylight of what I created. I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment below. There'll be another video along soon. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.